After years of waiting, James Bond is finally back in gaming. And honestly, 007 First Light is one of the most interesting Bond games we've seen in decades. Instead of playing it safe and copying the movies, IO Interactive decided to tell a completely new origin story, showing us a younger, less experienced Bond before he earned his legendary 007 status. On paper, it sounds like a great idea. In practice, it creates some of the game's best moments and some of its biggest problems. There were huge expectations going into this one. After all, this is the studio behind Hitman, a franchise known for its incredible level of design, player freedom, and stealth gameplay. So naturally, many players expected the ultimate James Bond experience. But does 007 First Light actually deliver on that promise? After finishing the game, I have come to a conclusion. So, let's jump into our Aston Martin and see if 007 First Light lives up to its expectations. Story. Now, let's start with the story. Now, the first I like about the story, it doesn't take on the normal Bond we see on them films and TV. Instead, a young 26-year-old Bond who's not even with MI6, by the way, but an air crewman in training. I think this is one of the biggest strengths. Seeing Bond make mistakes, take risks, and gradually develop into the character we will recognise in the shows and TV. It adds a level of growth that we don't often get from the Bond stories. It makes the journey feel more personal and give the narrative a stronger sense of progression. For example, showing his lack of experience is when Greenway tells Bond to stop touching his ear when talking in the earpiece.
Honey, heading inside.
Stop touching your ear.
What?
I said, stop touching your bloody ear.
One thing 007 gets right is its atmosphere. The locations are stylish and varied, blending luxury, danger, and espionage in a way that feels true to the franchise. Whether you're infiltrating a high-profile event, sneaking through a heavily guarded facility, or chasing leads across different parts of the world or buildings, there's a constant sense that you're operating in a world of international intrigue. The game strikes a nice balance between glamour and tension. One minute you're surrounded by expensive suits, exotic location, and sophisticated technology, and the next you're trying to avoid detection as a mission starts to unravel. That contrast helps sell the fantasy of being James Bond, better than simply throwing players into non-stop action. The atmosphere is also helped by the game's presentation. The soundtrack knows when to be subtle and suspenseful. What I appreciate most is that 007 First Light doesn't try to be a military shooter. Instead, it embraces espionage, deception, and investigation. The result is a game that feels much closer to a classic James Bond film. The gameplay. Now, let's talk about the gameplay. If this part of the game is bad for a James Bond game, it would be a bad look. But honestly, the gameplay is amazing. At its core, 007 First Light is a spy game, and thankfully they haven't made it into a Call of Duty shooter with war going on in the background. A big portion of the game revolves around being stealthy, infiltrating, gathering information. Most of the missions you will have to observe your surroundings, use your gadgets, and using multiple ways to complete your mission. This is where the Hitman DNA comes in, and it is very noticeable. The gameplay is so satisfying and enjoyable without you going gun blazing, and it rewards you sometimes for being stealthy. And if you want to go gun blazing and beat up everyone you see, well, you can still do that. The gunplay is oddly satisfying with every headshot feeling pretty goddamn nice. With combat, although it is good, it is enjoyable, and man, I like you can just push people into walls, that seems pretty fun. It doesn't stand out as much as the stealth for me, but the combat doesn't stay for long and they integrate it very well with the combat and stealth. The mission design. I do love the mission designs constantly putting you in different locations and going to different countries. Almost all the objectives give you more than one way to complete it. Overall, I think 007 First Light is at its best when it leans into espionage and player choice. The stealth system, gadgets, and mission structure do a great job of making you feel like a secret agent, even if action-focused moments don't always reach the same level of quality. When everything comes together, the game delivers exactly what many fans have wanted for years, a modern Bond experience that feels like more of a spy thriller than a standard action shooter. The music. Moving on to the music, this is another area where 007 First Light does a great job of the Bond fantasy. The soundtrack strikes a strong balance between suspense and spectacle. During stealth section, the music often stays subtle, building tension without becoming distracting. Then when the action ramps up, it becomes much more dramatic. The voice acting is another highlight. The cast delivers convincing performances. The portrayal of the younger Bond helps me feel like the character's more human and relatable. The bugs. Now, let's talk about the worst part of the game. The technical issues, man. For the most part of the game, pretty stable. For 99% of it. My god, that 1%, man. That 1% is absolutely awful. When I first opened the game for the first time, it was literally just a black screen, just playing music in the background. I thought it was an interactive event where I had to press something, but I didn't realise this was just an intro for me opening the game. And another thing is sometimes when jumping from cutscene to gameplay, it will just be hella laggy. Like my frames will be like 1 frame per minute, or it will just entirely crash the game. My final review, now that I've gone through everything, my final rating is a 9 out of 10. You should buy it.